Very exciting fight for me. To me, this is like Christmas, my birthday, Happy New Year, April Fools, whatever. I can't wait for this fight.
MMA has an uncanny habit of creating some of the most exciting storylines in professional sport.
Tonight, it is that will do it. Down goes Shockley. He's down!
From fighters' overnight rise to their hardest fails. It's time to uncover what shaped these special individuals, both inside and outside the cage. We'll explore the iconic personalities who've defined MMA over the past 30 years, through their triumphs and setbacks, their unforgettable moments and darkest times. We'll uncover the stories that lie behind the faces of MMA and what makes them legends.
Platinum Mike Perry!
With a fighting style as bold as his personality.
When they contract, I expand. When they expand, I contract. And when there is an opportunity I don't hit, it hits all by itself.
Perry carved out a unique niche in the MMA world.
People gonna bleed, motherfuckers gonna get cut open, and somebody might die.
From his electrifying performances inside the octagon to his outspoken presence outside of it.
I took a DNA test, and the results came back, and I was 2% African. So I am legally allowed to say the word.
Mike Perry is a figure you won't be able to miss. Perry was born in Flint, Michigan on September 15, 1991. Due to his parents being separated, he would frequently travel between Flint and Florida, constantly changing schools and struggling to fit in.
It's family. My dad.
And so you were moving
my dad, my stepmom, my mom, I moved around with them.
Wow.
You know, so I never really got settled in anywhere, ever. I'm too used to moving around.
Right.
When spending time with his father, it was instilled in Mike from an early age that a man needed to be able to handle himself in the tough environments he found himself immersed in.
And my dad, I think he was drunk and he wanted me to fight with him, with the neighborhood. And I was trying to break it up and he got mad at me. Well, he's just too loose cannon. So I tried to take that and like focus it into the art of, you know, being a martial artist, a fighter, a boxer.
However, this wild instability led him to a path of drugs, house arrest, probation violation, and jail.
I come from nothing and really have made something of myself. I have a house, a nice car, a little doggy family with my girlfriend, and like, you know, I have the type of life that I did not have as a kid. Fighting goals, when I was in there, they knew what was up.
Upon his release from jail for burglary, he got a job as a trainer at a UFC gym in Winter Springs, Florida, and that's when his fighting journey truly began. After 11 amateur fights, Perry made his professional debut in 2014. He competed in several regional shows across the country. In just under 2 years, he fought 9 times while finishing all of his opponents by knockout. After an impressive start to his early career, the UFC called Mike up on short notice to face Lim Hyung-gyu, a talented welterweight from Korea. And at the official weigh-ins, Perry made it clear that he was there to entertain from the get-go. He defeated Lim via TKO in the very first round, and the platinum had finally arrived. During the fight against Lim, Perry's cornerman and fellow fighter Alex Nicholson shouted during the pre-fight introductions.
Got nothing for you, Mike. Can't even open boy.
After Nicholson was accused of racism, Mike appeared on the MMA Hour to provide further clarity on the situation.
I don't think any of my competition can see me. And when I hit Lim, I opened a lot of people's eyes.
Okay, but this was before you hit him.
Well, we can see the future.
Next on the chopping block, however, would be British welterweight standout Danny Roberts.
Back then, going to Manchester, fighting an English fighter, trying to stay undefeated and going to his backyard, you know, I was like, oh man, I might be in some trouble here.
Yet, Perry still maintained his perfect finishing record.
He's hurt Perry looking to finish right
And although Perry would drop his third UFC fight in a unanimous decision to longtime veteran Oban, he would get right back to his winning ways in his next outing, when he hellbowed Jake Ellenberger to another dimension.
He's got Mike Perry thinking. And there's the one Shara was talking about. On the inside is Perry. Lights out in Nashville.
But I want to ask y'all, whose life y'all want me to ruin next?
Now on a steady roll in the UFC, amassing 3 devastating knockouts across 4 fights, Mike kept his momentum going against Dominic Reyes' younger brother, Alex Reyes.
Perry doing good with the clinch. Nasty knee to finish the fight. Platinum Mike Perry.
I'll give you a name right now because I know you're going to ask. Everybody want to see me beat up Robbie Lawler.
Unfortunately for Perry, he wouldn't get the chance to fight Lawler. Instead, he was matched up with Santiago Ponzinibbio, who outclassed Platinum to a unanimous decision victory. In fact, for the rest of Mike's career, he would seem to lose too, then come back with a win to hold on to a spot in the roster. But that didn't mean he wasn't still a magnet for viral moments.
I thought that he showed that he has a well-rounded skill set. Oh, hey, somebody said that this is interesting music by Mike Perry in my ear. And Mike goes, what is this song?
What are those? Adidas?
Adidas.
Are you sponsored by Adidas?
No, I was just matching, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're both tentative, like trying to get to each other, and you gotta feint. You just keep, And they're yelling, go, Mike, you gotta go. And I'm like, you go. I don't wanna get hit right now.
And look, I ain't trying to be one of these guys asking for more money. I'm not. I'm asking for the government to stop taking so much of this.
After yet another loss, this time coming to Daniel Rodriguez, the Platinum's time in the UFC was over. Having gone to a decision in the majority of his fights, the UFC realized Perry was no longer delivering the spectacular performances we have come to love. And so, Perry was cut from the UFC roster. Later that year, though, Perry would be invited to partake in a boxing match against Michael Seals.
Down goes, oh man, out of nowhere, Booker goes down and he's out, and this fight is over, out of nowhere.
The custom rule set was peculiar to say the least. They fought in a triangle-shaped ring and wore MMA gloves. After 7 rounds of action, Platinum was declared the winner, and a light bulb moment went off for everyone, all at once. Sure, Mike wasn't a world-class MMA fighter, nor a particularly elegant boxer. But what the Seals fight proved was that when given nowhere to run and forced to brawl, opponents crumbled under Perry's pressure.
Of modern bare-knuckle boxing, Mike Perry is your guy. That's the biggest star by a country mile.
In early 2022, bare-knuckle fighting promotion BKFC held just their second major event, Knucklemania 2. Since BKFC was still in its infancy, they required big names to sell the show. Since professional boxers actually make a decent amount of money during their careers, it's much easier to target retired or cut UFC fighters. For this reason, BKFC president David Feldman called upon the services of Platinum Mike Perry to headline the show against a former TUF contestant, Julian Lane.
When I fought Julian Lane, his little fucking head hurt my hands.
After a successful outing against Lane, Mike would return to the ring to face former Bellator superstar and striking phenom, Michael Venom Page. However, it would be Perry lashing out like a viper to shut down the flashy style of MVP.
Almost a taekwondo style carry right hand. And that's ruled a knockdown. Down goes Michael Page in round 1.
Seemingly unmatched in his own weight class, Mike was ready to take on all challengers, giving up a massive disadvantage in size. Perry then agreed to fight the former UFC middleweight champion, Luke Rockhold.
Pretty close. Yeah, little bitch-ass knuckles.
Luke Rockhold and you
Luke Rockhold is very skillful. He's a very skillful guy. And when you were putting it on him, I was like, this is a totally different thing. And you are like uniquely suited for this totally different thing.
But just 1 minute and 15 seconds into the second round, Mike shattered Rockhold's teeth, forcing the significantly bigger man to quit.
I bet it hurt his hand. I told him before the fight, you're gonna punch me in the head. It's gonna be the hardest thing you ever hit. And then I'm gonna headbutt you in your hands and I'm gonna punch you in your face and you're gonna quit. And that's what he did.
It's a good fight. It's a shame it ended that way. Motherfucker Mike, you tough bastard.
Desperate to find someone capable of matching Platinum's intensity, Feldman turned to yet another former UFC champion, Eddie Alvarez.
So you saying you're gonna finish me, who I mean barely ever happens, is silly, and you know that's a lie, because you ain't finished no one in 6 years except for Luke Rockhold.
Eddie was already known for being one of the gamest fighters in history, beating Justin Gaethje to earn the moniker of the most violent man in the UFC back in 2017. However, when the two finally did meet in the middle, the warrior spirit of Eddie Alvarez was decisively quelled when he and his corner decided that coming out for another round of chaos wasn't in their best interests. Now adopting the title King of Violence, Mike Perry stands at the top of the bare-knuckle mountain and solidified this position by dispatching Brazilian knockout artist Thiago Alves in the very first round at Knucklemania 4.
Seconds remaining, round number 1. Down goes Thiago Alves.
I ain't a hater, bro. We all out here trying to make it. And I'm fighting for every step I take.
Although Perry never reached a UFC title shot, to say he has found success outside of the promotion is a massive understatement. Mike has not only preserved the fan base he acquired in MMA, but has managed to grow his following and become one of the most famous niche combat sports athletes of all time. His brash, yet endearing personality.
Giving me an opportunity, whatever, man. You're not good with words.
Has provided him with a cult following and a platform to build a new legacy, one that better represents his raw talent for calculated brawling.
Because it's like someone designed the perfect sport for you. There's a pain and there's a danger and there's a wildness of it that even some very great fighters, they don't want that experience once they're in there, but you seem to thrive on it.
The story of Mike Perry has many low points, but it's also a tale of resurrection. When forced out of a profitable MMA career, Platinum literally fought to claw back relevancy from the combat community. When deemed unsuitable for elite athletic competition, he forged a new path to the top of an entirely different sport. If the story of Mike Platinum Perry teaches us anything, perhaps it's not that we don't belong, but maybe we're just in the wrong arena.
Anderson, the Spider Silva!
And it was maybe like 7 seconds, but just a split second in there that I was just like, holy, I'm fighting Anderson Silva.
In the annals of combat sports history, few names shine as brightly at the top of this list as Anderson Silva's.
Anderson Silva broke the record for most consecutive wins in the UFC. He broke record for most consecutive title defenses. He's the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world.
Plenty of fighters have risen to become dominant champions. However, in his prime, Anderson Silva fought with an aura of invincibility that hasn't been replicated since.
When Anderson was in his prime, he was a magician. There was something about him, man, and you knew he was f***ing him up. He was f***ing everybody up.
Or even stepping in the octagon. His competitors were often already beaten by his reputation.
Well, they wanted a big, slow guy to follow Anderson around and make him look real good.
But when our most human elements become exposed and the veil of invincibility falls, both the world's and our own self-perceptions can change in an instant.
I'll never let him fight here again. I want him to retire.
The Spider captivated fans in both his thrilling ascent and the heartbreaking downfall of a once-in-a-generation legend.
Anderson was a very exciting fighter, most exciting fighter in UFC.
Considered by many to be the greatest of all time, Anderson's story serves as a reminder of the inevitability of mortality in the world of combat sports. During his formative years in the tumultuous world of Brazilian MMA, Anderson Silva honed his skills in the Mecca World Valetudo. It was here that he began to earn his reputation as a knockout artist and grappling wizard, laying the foundation for the legendary career that would later unfold.
Anderson Silva
Anderson Silva's journey to greatness continued as he ventured into the revered Pride Fighting Championships in 2002, making his debut against Alex Stevens. Pride was a crucial chapter in his career, demonstrating his versatile fighting style and leaving an indelible mark with stunning victories.
Oh! No way, he's out! Whoa!
Amidst his storied career, in 2004, Anderson Silva made an impactful stint in Cage Rage, winning the middleweight title over Lee Murray in just his debut.
In Cage Rage, he fought in England. And when he fought in England, I was like, holy when he fought Lee Murray, you got to see how goddamn good Anderson really was when he was in his prime.
His memorable victories, including knockouts of Jorge Rivera and Curtis Stout, solidified his reputation as a remarkable prospect. Silva's time in Cage Rage was a pivotal stepping stone in his path to the pinnacle of the sport. Although he would find fame and fortune in the UFC, the fires of greatness had already been sparked. Anderson Silva's early UFC career was nothing short of spectacular. Making his debut in June 2006, Silva immediately asserted his dominance in the middleweight division.
I was a fan of watching him fight in England in Cage Rage and watching him fight in Pride, and I remember saying this, ladies and gentlemen, this is a different kind of striker.
His striking prowess and precision left opponents absolutely bewildered, and his inaugural UFC championship bout against Rich Franklin showcased his exceptional talent. Subsequent victories over top-tier contenders like Dan Henderson and Nate Marquardt solidified his status as an icon in the sport. During this time, Silva's performances left his fans in awe, establishing him as one of the greatest fighters. Shortly after crushing Stephan Bonner, Anderson reflected on his long reign as champion and felt his time was coming to an end. He told MMA Fighting, "I want to stop. I want time for myself, to stay with my family. I've been doing this for years and I'm losing contact with my kids. It's not working for me anymore." Shortly after a meeting regarding his retirement, Dana White bought Silva a $174,000 Bentley Continental in December 2012, and in March 2013, Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman was announced for later that year.
I had enough good moments and enough good memories, and I'm going to ride off in the sunset. And then he ended up telling his wife and said, okay, I'm going to go do this fight with this guy named Chris Weidman, and if I beat him, I'm done.
The two fights between Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman stand as life-changing moments in Silva's storied career. Their first encounter in July 2013 saw Silva's unprecedented 16-fight UFC win streak, and Weidman scored a knockout victory.
You can't play games in the octagon.
Some felt this was a blip in an otherwise immaculate title run, whilst others thought that the years of taunting and mocking opponents had simply finally caught up with him.
I remember sitting there watching, Silva doing all the antics, slipping, putting his hands down, and just remember thinking, man, that's gonna catch up with him one day. And
the rematch 6 months later would go down in infamy. Weidman checked a kick. MMA world recoiled in horror.
He broke his leg. Anderson fractured his leg. You can see his leg hanging loose now. Wow. He broke his leg. Unbelievable. What a crazy ending. It went limp.
Although Silva displayed incredible resilience and determination to return to the sport, these two fights marked the beginning of the decline in his once untouchable aura. In his first fight post-injury, Silva faced Nick Diaz in the main event of UFC 183 on the 31st of January 2015.
That man, 13 months ago, had what could have been a career-ending injury.
He won the fight via unanimous decision.
Anderson, the Spider Silva!
The days after the fight, it was revealed that Silva tested positive for 2 anabolic steroids in a pre-fight drug screening.
Anderson Silva popping positive for not 1 but 2 different steroids. Nick Diaz for the 3rd time testing positive for marijuana.
The commission suspended him for 1 year starting at the date of the fight.
It's going to be something that's going to live on for him in a sense. Now, it's possible that he was doing PEDs the whole time because athletic commissions have just begun testing out of competition.
Upon his return, further losses to Bisping and Cormier confirmed that the old Anderson was no longer the same man entering the octagon. Although he would secure a decision victory over an inconsistent Derek Brunson, the final 3 fights all came as losses. Now retired from MMA, Anderson made his return to the sport of boxing, where he'd intermittently dabbled during his early combat sports career. Fans felt a thrill of nostalgia as they witnessed their hero capture back some of his old magic in a win over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
I'm very, wow. I need to say thank you.
A further knockout of Tito Ortiz would leave fans hopeful that Silva could end his combat sports career on a high note. Alas, when a fight with YouTube boxing sensation Jake Paul was announced, many feared an aging legend was just being used to artificially bolster an influencer's record.
I freaking hate that, man. You're fighting a guy that's like mid-40s, late 40s. What the is he, 44, 45?
With Anderson Silva, it's going to break my heart if Paul knocks out Anderson Silva.
And they were right. A year on from the Paul fight, and the Spider looked almost unrecognizable, seemingly having put on a considerable amount of weight and growing out his facial hair. Some wondered if the once untouchable GOAT had lost his way once and for all. And then...
Oh, Anderson, yoo-hoo! It's me again.
After having one of the most heated and memorable rivalries in MMA history, Anderson Silva and Chael Sonnen are finally set to meet again. This time, to settle the score in the boxing ring.
Someone must have broken my heart, like really torn it apart in another life, in another life. Someone must have really picked me up, like caused my heart to stop in another life, in another life.
Anderson Silva's journey remains a remarkable testament to the pursuit of greatness. From his humble beginnings in Brazil to his reign in the UFC, Silva's rise was awe-inspiring, his skills unparalleled. But like all legends, his path was not without its trials.
Anderson Silva in his prime, the knockout power, the inventiveness, the creativity that the man possessed, it was absolutely mind-blowing.
Despite the highs and inevitable lows, Silva's legacy endures as a beacon of inspiration for fighters and fans alike. As we reflect on the rise and fall of this iconic figure, we remember not just the victories and defeats, but the indomitable spirit that defined the Spider.
Sean Tarzan
You know, if it wasn't UFC, I'd probably be cooking meth in a trailer in prison. So
abrasive.
Wait, are you a homosexual?
Brash.
I'll give you a chance to win. Just go hard.
Captivating.
I always call Izzy the Chinese champion, but Izzy's not the Chinese champion. Izzy is the modern day man. Izzy is a Chinese.
Fight fans, welcome back.
Meow.
Although hard to label the change in Sean Strickland as growth, the liberation of Sean's character has propelled him to fame and title contention in the UFC.
I couldn't say, because Dana White would be like, hey, go that white trash or get him out of here.
Whilst exploring one of the most controversial personalities to ever grace the sport, we hope to discover exactly what sparked the fuse that has led to the explosive rise of Sean Strickland.
I appreciate this. Without you guys, I would probably be a piece of somewhere. Now I'm a piece of with money. Let's go!
Strickland's journey began in Corona, California. Raised in a blue-collar family, Sean had a troubled childhood riddled with abuse from his father.
My father, abusive alcoholic, drank, everything about him I hated. Yes. Everything about him I hated.
As Sean's success grew inside the octagon, his exposure to the public would increase in turn. Through numerous interviews, it became apparent that a disturbing youth would prove the catalyst for Sean's future instability.
My mom bought us guns at super early. I was like in elementary school with a loaded gun in my room, My dad, dude, is like, when I was a kid, dude, he was like the monster, dude. He was like the boogeyman.
Eventually, Sean's volatile relationship with his father would boil over, and Sean finally put an end to years of living in fear.
I'm just like, dude, like, today's a day. I'm done with it. Headbutt him, break his nose. Like, he falls down, crying. And I'll never forget, the monster, the boogeyman in my life, just watching, fall to the ground, crying, holding his nose, and bleeding.
Now making his own way in the world, a 16-year-old Tarzan made his professional debut in King of the Cage. dominating the roster for 5 years before making his start in the UFC with a record of 13 wins and 11 stoppages.
I've been around, but I finally got the opportunity to prove myself in the UFC, and I'm pretty excited. Can't wait for that opportunity.
Once done demolishing Bubba McDaniel and wrapping up a rear naked choke in the first round,
It's all over! Beautiful Sean Strickland!
Sean continued a solid run in the welterweight division, amassing wins over Luke Barnett,
Oh, and a nice exchange there.
Tom Breeze,
Good combinations.
and Alex Garcia.
Sean Strickland with a massive KO!
However, after a decision loss to future champion Kamaru Usman, welterweight would prove a mixed bag for the American Psycho. While picking up solid wins over Court McGee and Nordine Taleb,
Big right now, and another one!
other times being on the receiving end of vicious wheel kicks from Eliseu Zaleski. Although facing inconsistency inside the cage, perhaps the biggest setback of Sean's life was about to happen outside of it. In December of 2018, Sean suffered a horrific motorcycle accident, rendering him unconscious for several hours. Previously believing he would never fight again, Strickland would announce his return to the UFC 2 years later. This time at 185 pounds, he felt he would be able to take more short-notice fights as he aimed to compete more frequently. Michael Bisping revealed Sean had received a considerable insurance payout for the accident. The money is what changed his fighting style because it took away the stress of fighting. He was so concerned, but since having money in the bank, he can do what he loves. Once obsessed with preserving his MMA record at all costs, Strickland felt he had nothing to lose, but with his competitive window closing, could he still make another run at the title? Strickland would not only return from his accident with a revitalized hunger for competition, but unashamedly himself.
I'll deal with that shit when I'm old. I'm 29. I got a few more years left in me. I'm gonna ride these. I'm gonna ride it till the wheels fall off. Let's have some fun.
Sean's new approach to life and fighting would shine through inside the octagon, demonstrated best in his middleweight comeback against Jack Marshman.
Why'd you finish center, Jack?
You can't.
Bro, you just can't fall. Why would you fall?
Probably
I knew I was like
speed.
He's
Sean
30
Strickland.
seconds, Jack. Let's go. Just go hard. 10 seconds, Jack. Come on, Jack. Come on, Jack. 5 seconds, Jack. Jack, why is your head made of steel?
Strickland's next challenge would come in the form of rising prospect Brendan Allen. However, it would be Sean emerging as the new one to watch.
Another jab. Another one. Two on that one, Allen. Strickland trying to end it. And it's over. Sean Strickland. Wow.
The rebirth of Sean not only saw him continuing to build a dangerous skill set, but continue to stay in the headlines.
I couldn't say because Dana White would be like, hey, that white trash, get him out of here. But now, since I'm getting a little bit more like, fan base, people want to watch me fight, I can say a lot more offensive so it's nice. Now I'm just going to be the white trash that I am. It's nice.
Following successive wins over Krzysztof Jotko and Uriah Hall, Strickland finally broke into the top 10.
If I do drugs, I'll probably end up losing my mind, so I stay away from it. I think after I'm done fighting, I'm going to go on a shroom journey. Everybody swears by shroom,
In spite of his recent successes, though, there's always a monster waiting around the corner, ready to devour those unfortunate enough to not see them coming. Succeeding a unanimous decision victory over Jack Hermansson, it was time for Sean's first big fight against surging contender and future champion Alex Pereira.
Doing all the clinch in the ground.
The stage was set for an epic night of fights, but during the press conference, Sean seemed more focused on tormenting Israel than answering questions regarding his upcoming matchup.
Grown-ass man on TikTok. Maybe that's the problem, bro.
And
you don't want this guy's a champion.
Do something about it.
You don't want this guy's a champion.
Do something about it.
Hey,
I'll break my nail in your
get
face.
this man. Alex, get this.
Hey, man, you better.
Ever the showman, Sean was determined to put out an exciting performance with Pereira on his feet. Unfortunately for Strickland, if there's one person you don't want to test your striking with, it's Poatan.
Because he's...
Never one to let a bad performance keep him down, Strickland responded to the loss in typical jovial Sean fashion, endearing him to fans who related to his antagonistic yet down-to-earth disposition.
When you sparred with him, did you think like, oh, this is where I fucked up in that fight, or oh, this is what I would do different in a rematch, or is it just...
No, I'd kickbox the guy again. It's funny.
Keeping his promise to stay active, Sean bounced back just 5 months later to face the gorilla Jared Cannonier. Following a back-and-forth war, Jared got the nod in a split decision. Never afraid to let his feelings be known, Strickland wasn't shy in his analysis of the judges.
Hats off to Jared, but again, you have judges that don't know how to do their job. You actually look at the scorecards, and you look at the significant strikes, and you look at how many times I wobbled in. And you have people, experts in the field, come up to me and say, "Yeah, man, I don't know how you lost that one. You landed way more. The scorecard should say it."
A month later, Strickland would see Nasruddin Imavov on the horizon at UFC Vegas 67.
That's what you're seeing him do patiently. Pressure. Good timing.
Winning 4 of 5 rounds, the man of controversy dispatched the Russian sniper with ease, proving his place was still deserved at the top of the division.
Second, Sean Strickland!
I'm a company guy, man. You pay me, I'll fight Francis Ngannou, Eric.
Sean was back in the win column and back making the media uncomfortable.
I found that out if you were like, oh no, I love my husband. He is the greatest guy ever. I have a bunch of kids. I'm happily married. Then I said, all right, well, have a good day.
6 months later, Sean is booked in what many considered a puzzling matchup against Abus Magomedov. Why was Strickland, a veteran who clawed his way to the top of the division, being matched up with someone with just a single UFC fight? Sean speculated that Abus's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, had been spying on Sean and wanted to set up his fighter for a big win.
But just kind of rough, dude. You watch me spar, and then next thing you know, it's like, hey, 3 weeks later, we got this guy. We want you to fight.
Despite the risk, Sean wanted to remain active. And subsequent to a conversation with close friend Chris Curtis, the pair decided it was easy money.
Called him back like, this is a stupid fight. And no disrespect to Abus, but after doing the research, I told Sean, this is free money.
After a dangerous first round, Sean applied the pressure and showed Abus there are levels to this game.
Beautiful performance. Sean Strickland.
Of course, it wouldn't be a Strickland fight if he didn't offend at least half the audience post-fight.
It was some good wholesome man. Americans, we need to go back to like taking women out of the workforce. And maybe that's what up, you guys. We let women vote. No offense.
And perhaps the biggest upset in the division's history, Strickland faced off against middleweight champ Israel Adesanya on short notice and proceeded to shock the world. But it wouldn't be just one lucky punch. Yet, in his very first title defense, rising South African star Dricus du Plessis would overwhelm Sean, and it seemed Strickland's time in the spotlight had passed, at least for now. If you look up the word divisive in the dictionary, you'll find Sean Strickland. Despite this, somehow Sean's childlike nature can be disarming, humorous, and even affable.
I mean, technically, when I got stopped, I was still coherent. I wasn't dead. I was awake. I was aware. But, nah, it was a good stoppage, man. I mean, that guy has dynamite. If it wasn't that, he would have countered. Man, I didn't even think I'd be in the UFC. I remember when I got my first UFC call, I was like, what the f***? Like, it's not supposed to happen.
While the tireless scramble for contendership rages on, one man remains focused on bringing the belt home to a small, white trash town in Corona, California.
Shara Bullet Maggomedov!
Those guys from Dagestan, that is a hard spot in the world, man. There's some killers coming out of that spot.
In recent history, we've seen a UFC takeover of hard-nosed fighters from the harsh and unforgiving region of Dagestan. However, in a catalog of formidable talent, one man's reputation has become notorious for being particularly terrifying in both appearance and ferocity. His name is Shara Bullet Maggomedov. But things have not always been this way. As a young child, Shara played football, but was forced to leave his local team because of his participation in frequent scuffles during games. This wasn't because he was a bad kid. More so, others would mock him for having striking red hair, which is very uncommon in that part of the world.
Мама и отец, они в этом плане очень были принципиальны.
After leaving football behind him, the Bullet discovered a passion for boxing, winning a mixture of both regional and international tournaments. From there, he progressed to kickboxing and found equal success. Until an eye injury he suffered in the 2016 Russian Muay Thai Championship brought everything to a halt. For a long time, the fighter considered the injury insignificant and carried on his training as normal. However, the issue with his sight persisted, and doctors informed him that he had left the eye injury for so long, his retina had begun to detach itself. Because Magomedov left the treatment for so long, even after 8 operations and a year of recovery, he lost his eye.
Я помню, я грушу бил, и тренер передо мной стоял, и что-то я грушу плохо начал видеть, не вижу грушу нормально, закрыл, открыл, обратно вот это, и мысли меня начали тревожить. И тренер говорит, что с тобой подходит? Я открываю глаза, я говорю, я тебя не вижу, говорю, твоего лица.
Not one to let anything stand in his way, Magomedov continued to pursue a career in combat sports and made his professional debut in late 2017. He then continued to fight every month for the next 3 months, knocking out all 4 opponents with ease. But despite his success in combat sports, Shara seems incapable of controlling his impulsive nature, something that would follow him throughout his career. The first recorded instance of Magomedov appearing somewhat unhinged was when he threw eggs at a couple of girls wearing miniskirts in public. When asked to comment on the matter, he said, "Why dress like that? In society, such people are called people with low social responsibility. And when someone like me comes up and starts pestering you, why are they surprised and beginning to act indignantly? If they come out in public like that, what are they expecting?" But whatever his actions outside of the ring may say about him, it was undeniable that Magomedov was a top prospect inside it. Confident nobody in the world could stand with him, Shara even made an appearance in Glory Kickboxing, besting Israel Adesanya's teammate Blood Diamond in a unanimous decision. Upon making his return to the cage, the Bullet joined Russian MMA promotion Unforgettable, which employs a modified rule set allowing only 30 seconds of ground fighting. This suited Shara's style perfectly, but the fights didn't count towards his overall MMA record. If they had, the Bullet would currently be 17-0. But controversy would yet again rear its ugly head for Shara in 2022 when he confronted a man for kissing his girlfriend on an escalator. Although the other man appears to have thrown the first punch. And Magomedov later waited for him outside, sucker punching him before stomping his head into the concrete. But when he wasn't handing out street justice for PDA, Magomedov spent the majority of his time fighting in the Russian Cage Fighting Championships, an AFC promotion, where he amassed some of his most impressive and violent finishes. One such victory came over Kushal Vyas in his last fight before being called up to the big leagues. Magomedov sent Kushal to the Shadow Realm in less than 10 seconds. And the call from the UFC was just around the corner. But things are never that simple when it comes to the Bullet. For starters, he started 2023 kicking his opponent in a jiu-jitsu match after being submitted, before failing 3 drug tests for traces of malgenate found in his blood samples, meaning he had to wait on the sidelines for months for the substance to leave his system. However, after 6 months of clean tests, it would finally be time for the chaotic force that is Shara Magomedov to be unleashed in the UFC octagon.
This is my division. Yeah, I do. The pirate is fear.
The Bullet would not be given an easy layup, though. He had caused the UFC a slight headache in the process of getting him on the roster, and they wanted to see if the juice had been worth the squeeze. For this reason, they called upon experienced veteran Bruno Silva to test the young phenom.
Get him out of there.
Considering both men finished the majority of their fights by knockout, the fights promised, at least on paper, to be very exciting. And it delivered. Shara outclassed Silva on the feet, and once he was taken down, he remained extremely active on his back, landing relentless punches and elbows to earn a unanimous decision victory.
No problem, strike. Take down, no problem, I'm strike. Dangerous.
Magomedov has gripped the world with his story, his appearance, and his fighting ability. Of course, one hopes he matures as he gets older, but this can be said of many young fighters who've made mistakes in the past. Regardless, fans wait with bated breath to see Shara get back in the cage, but they may have to wait some time. God knows how many fighters are rejecting calls from Dana, trying their best to dodge the bullet.
Oban, the Welsh Gangster, Elliott!
Although once considered a wrestling dead zone, the UK's fighting populace has taken to MMA with rigor and excitement over the last decade. Not only have the nations that make up the British Isles learned how to wrestle, but their fighters have captured the hearts of the wider MMA community and become some of the biggest names in the sport. Scotland brought Craig,
Back up to his feet. Oh my God, briefly tight.
Ray, and Wood.
Spinning back fist for JoJo!
England gave us Bisping, Edwards, and Pembley. And of course,
The reigning, defending, the one, the only!
Ireland gifted us the notorious Conor McGregor. But what about Wales?
A real rise in Welsh MMA. I think that's due to probably us being one of the more forgotten nations then, let's say, in Europe, you know.
Well-rounded, athletic, and constantly improving in every aspect of MMA, Oban, the Welsh gangster Elliott's rise to the UFC has been nothing short of spectacular.
That's a landing for him. Oh, he's down! What a knockout! Back to yeah, he's winding up.
Bayonet. He takes it back and looks to
Oban's story is one of struggle, grief, and triumph. Now carrying the weight of a nation, will Oban buckle under the pressure? Or will he rise to the occasion and start a new lineage of future Welsh UFC champions? Born in Merthyr Tydfil in December of 1997, Oban Elliott's start in life wasn't easy, losing his father Paul to suicide when he was just 7 years old.
It just completely brought my entire world down when he died.
The loss of his father had a profound impact on Elliott.
They wouldn't let me go to primary school because I was on suicide watch, you know what I mean?
But, inspired by his late father's amateur boxing career, he chose to take up combat sports and embarked on a journey he hoped would have made his father proud.
It's always going to happen. I had these shorts made, right? It's like my dad's boxing shorts when I was a kid. No, when he was boxing, I had them made the same. That was these dethroned shorts.
But Elliott didn't simply jump into the cage, gain instant success, and turn his life around overnight. Until recently, Oban was doing night shifts on the rail tracks of South Wales to support himself, working from 10 p.m. until late morning. Oban built his training and fighting life around back-breaking labor.
Yeah, when I'm not training, I'm working full time, labouring on a building site. It's not pretty, it's not glamorous. 5 o'clock, in my work stuff, wash the dust out my hair in the shower, grab my bag, straight up the gym till 8 o'clock every night, and that's Monday to Friday every day.
Before moving to MMA, a young Welsh gangster was gathering experience fighting older opponents in kickboxing in regional Welsh events.
I remember fighting this 19-year-old in Colwyn Bay with like a crowd in a cage. It was on an MMA card, and my coach lied to, and I was 18. I was 15.
Upon turning 19, Oban decided it was time to take his first amateur MMA fight. Cage Warriors had recently begun expanding into Wales, and Elliott made his debut in its very first academy show. While many fighters use such opportunities to gain experience, Oban was making statements for the whole UK scene to hear. Dusting off the amateur scene with relative ease, Elliott became the Cage Warriors Academy champion, finishing all 7 of his opponents, mostly by way of knockout. Now one of the highest-ranked amateurs in the UK, Elliott transitioned seamlessly into his professional career, picking up stoppage victories over Brett Hassett, Wally Ski Kemp,
takes the back and looks to unload with a series of right hands, and it's over.
and James Lillard.
Big squeeze, this is over.
Big squeeze from Oban Elliott, and there's a submission.
I want people to turn around and say, look at Oban Elliott, look at him, look at what he's doing. because it's unheard of in Merthyr for people to succeed like that. And
it wouldn't be until his 4th fight against future champion Michael Figlak that Oban's epic win streak would finally be snapped. After the fight, Oban was taken to the hospital after experiencing significant pain in his chest, and doctors discovered he had a rare heart condition, and Elliott's fighting career seemed to be uncertain.
What do you do for a living? Is this your financial thing? We don't think we could ever do this again.
Determined to keep his dreams alive, Oban figured out that cutting weight seemed to exacerbate his condition, and if he transitioned to a higher weight class, he could continue to pursue his goals.
It became more and more stable until it was just completely normal. So then, basically, I have a condition where if I'm in a severely ill thing, like a severe ill condition, like I've lost a lot of weight, you know what I mean? Like it could happen, you know, but it's under control. I have no issues, but I take no medication.
Fighting at a more natural weight class was better for his 6-foot frame and allowed him to keep his body healthier.
What a knockout for Oban Elliott!
Adversity was nothing new to the Welsh gangster. Knowing the importance of perseverance, he pushed through a tough spell to emerge a new man in 2022. After a round 1 victory over fellow prospect Herkis Lukashune, it was time for a step up in competition for the Welsh prodigy, and former middleweight champion Matthew Bonner was exactly the test he needed.
Which is, you defend against the anchoring arm, but it's not enough.
This is really, really strong work. 10 seconds for the round as well.
Big combination for Bonner. He's wobbled right here. This could be it.
So tied in this position. Locking up this rear naked choke. This looks very similar to the finish of the...
Yeah!
Key looking substantially bigger, but that's a figure, but not a whole lot. And it's over.
Going in, Elliott was a massive underdog, with almost 90% of fans on Tapology predicting Bonner to not only beat the Welshman, but finish him. Not to be deterred by the odds, Oban showed the improvements he'd made since his losses, and dominated Bonner to win a unanimous decision victory.
The champion, Jai Herbert, we've got Mason Jones, we've got Donovan Desmay, we've got the likes of Paddy Pimblett,
Frank Mir,
Alexander Jakobsen,
and Fedor Emelianenko. Boys, neither one
none of you are the best, but one of you is next.
2 fights later, and the mistake of making Elliott a heavy underdog was repeated against James Sheehan, who Oban dusted off in another 3-round beating.
Oh, nice combination. Yeah, that's the one from Elliott.
Now considered to be the best welterweight in Welsh MMA history, it was time for Oban to take yet another step forward in competition. This time, on Dana White's Contender Series.
Nah, because I shouldn't have got this far, so...
The Contender Series is designed as a place where regional prospects are matched against each other, and the victor is rewarded with a shot in the big leagues. However, Elliott's opponent, Kike Brito, was far more than just a regional talent.
Fighting toilet cleaners that have a 1-fight release on the UFC, that get a nice little, blue corner job every time. And I had to just fight that psychopath, you know what I mean?
A former octagon champion, with over 80% of his victories coming via knockout, it was understandable why most picked the Brazilian. After a promising round 1, things were looking good for the young Welshman. But towards the end of round 2, Brito had Oban staring down the barrel of a last-second armbar.
Straight armbar! Yes! 3 seconds! 2 seconds!
That's super tight.
For years I've been dreaming about getting to this position where I'm a 15-minute fight away from my lifetime goal. Then it really begins.
But Oban rallied in round 3 and outworked Kike to secure the victory and earn himself a UFC contract for all his troubles.
There's many things that I love about fighters. One of the biggest ones is how bad do you want it? I don't know anybody that wants it badder than this kid does. I'm gonna give you the opportunity, kid, so good luck.
I don't know, what that guy has got some serious mental resilience and toughness, and I was shouting at the screen come on, Oban.
His place in the UFC now set in stone, it was time for Oban to start letting his personality shine through also.
The first thing I saw in the comments was, what an obnoxious, cross-eyed goofball. And I thought, how do they know me so well?
That was a little bit of a Ric Flair and a Hulk Hogan. Where's the pose?
Oh, yeah. There's the pose. And yeah, I got 2 of these as well.
Now scheduled to face Val Woodburn in his UFC debut, Oban Elliott had caught many people's attention, including one of his lifelong heroes, Chael Sonnen.
Cheering you on from one gangster to another. You made all of us very proud.
Making it this far, but the journey just began. Let's get the win this weekend, stud.
Although recently coming off a loss to Bo Nickel, Val Woodburn was still recognized as a dangerous opponent to make one's debut against. Yeah, he may have lost to Bo, but Nickel is one of the favorites amongst prospects to one day wear a belt.
And then he's going to be fighting me, who's probably thinking, oh yeah, well, it's not going to get much worse than Bo Nickel. It can't get much worse than Bo Nickel, can it, you know?
Both men hurt each other in the opening round, but it would ultimately be Elliott who managed to grind out the remaining 2 rounds all the way to victory. His dream of winning in the UFC was finally realized, and the world was notified of the Welsh Gangster's arrival.
You think what you want about that performance. I know how good I am. I know where I'm going. And as of February 17th, I am the man. And to be the man, you gotta beat the man.
And I'm saying, woo!
Oban's story transcends the realm of sport. It's a narrative of struggle, grief, and triumph. From the loss of his father at a tender age to the discovery of a rare heart condition, Oban faced challenges that could have shattered lesser spirits. Yet, inspired by his late father's legacy, he embarked on a journey through the unforgiving world of combat sports.
You've got Enzo Karzaghi and Joe Karzaghi. You even got Richard Shaw, you've got Jack Shaw. It should have been Paul Elliott and Oban Elliott, and I'll never ever get that back.
As Oban stands victorious in the UFC, he not only carries the hopes and dreams of Wales, but also becomes a beacon of inspiration for anyone struggling with loss. The Welsh Gangster's journey is a testament to the indomitable spirit that fuels all fighters from the land of dragons.
If I've got a message for any young kid coming up, if you've got an idea and you want to be somewhere, don't stop. Don't take no for an answer. You know, if it's not going to be given to you, so go and take it.
Through the highs and lows, the triumphs and defeats of the fighters who've shaped the sport, we've seen platinum turn into gold, spiders turn into goats, degenerates become champions, and gangsters eliminate their competition. Their stories remind us that MMA is more than just about what happens inside the cage. It's about the people, the sacrifices, and the legacies they leave behind.